biggest challenge in this, 90% of it for me was mental.
I think Andrea's challenge is next level.
She trains like no other.
So Climb Mont Blanc is a mega Ironman.
I've made mistakes myself. I didn't get the help that I needed when I was a young girl. And I won't stop.
In July 2017, I had just had major surgery and been diagnosed with cervical cancer. Laying in the hospital bed, I knew that I would need something to focus on that would help me recover. It needed to be something that would not only challenge my own personal limits, but something that I could use to promote and create awareness around female menstrual health. My husband and I, we started to brainstorm ideas. The conversation went a little like this. So I've always wanted to swim the English Channel. And Carl said, well, haven't lots of people already done that? Think again. Okay, well, we live in Chamonix and I've never climbed Mont Blanc. But with no disrespect, lots of people have already done that as well. So Carl jokingly then said, I know, I've got it. Why don't you do them both and cycle in between? It'll be like a mega Ironman. As insane as it sounded, I absolutely loved the idea, even though he was joking. And just like that, I set about planning a crazy adventure. But how do you plan for such a challenge? You know, how do I even swim across the English Channel? Can Carl kayak? Can he paddle in a kayak beside me? It became really apparent quite quickly that I had zero idea what I was letting myself in for. The training now sounded like the really easy part. Eventually, the doctor gave me the all clear to be able to start training, and I was getting fit and back on track when, boom, I was hit by a truck. Quite literally, I was knocked off my bike by a lorry, and the first I knew about it was when I woke up in hospital after having had surgery. And then just 5 weeks later, you can't write it, but I was asked to do a photo shoot. I would be on my bike, but I wouldn't be riding. I'd just be posing in front of the camera. I mean, what harm could that do? Well, there I was, riding towards the camera when the biggest gust of wind came, took my back wheel, knocked me straight off my bike. I tried really hard because I knew disaster would strike if I hit my arm. I had my helmet on, so I tried really hard to land on my head. But unfortunately, I landed straight onto the broken arm, and it resulted in me being taken back to hospital and more surgery. Anybody would be forgiven for thinking that there was absolutely no way I would be able to make it to the start line now, but it made me more determined than ever. Just 8 weeks out from the start, I couldn't even get into the open water or into any water because of the open wound in my arm. 6 weeks out, I couldn't swim one length in a swimming pool. How on earth was I going to swim across the English Channel? Well, against all odds, on the 9th of September, I set out to achieve what most people had told me would be impossible. I wanted to swim 34 kilometers across the English Channel, cycle 900 kilometers across France, and then climb Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in Western Europe. And if that wasn't hard enough, I wanted to do it all in just 5 days. I woke up that morning really excited, but exceptionally nervous. Due to weather conditions that were coming, I had been told that I had to start at 6 p.m., which would mean the majority of the swim would be in the dark. Now, that's not something that I had really trained for, but I knew I had to take the opportunity. I mean, how hard could swimming in the dark really be? I met my support team, and after a few last-minute preparations, we made our way to the start of the swim. I started really cautiously. I knew that I had an exceptionally long 5 days ahead of me. The water was nice and calm, relatively calm to start off with, but as the night loomed in, it got rougher and rougher. The waves were crashing over me. They were smacking me in the face, making it really hard to breathe. And you know the question I'd asked myself earlier, how difficult can swimming in the dark really be? Well, it turns out it's actually really very hard. In the dark, all you see on the boat is this little green light bobbing up and down. And safe to say, I spent the first 4 hours of the swim feeling very, very sick and vomiting every couple of minutes. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the boat shone its lights and I could see the land. I was instructed by my crew to just keep swimming, just keep my head down and get to that rock at Calais. I was exhausted. My face was swollen from the jellyfish stings, my arms were dead, and my tongue literally felt like I'd been licking a cheese grater from all of the salt. But my legs, they weren't too bad, which was good considering I now had to ride 900 kilometers. For the next 3 days, I rode and I rode and I rode. I was exhausted. I was that tired. Everything was sore. Even my eyelashes were sore at one point, I think. But I just kept telling myself that I had chosen to do this. For one, I had nobody else I could blame. And secondly, that the pain I was feeling now would eventually pass and it would be over. 4 days later, I arrived in Chamonix. But I knew the job still wasn't done. I still had what was for me the most difficult part, to climb Mont Blanc. My guide and I, we set off at 2 a.m. We wanted to pass what was the most dangerous part that's often referred to as the Gully of Death for a reason, nice and early. We did pass safely, and the next 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours were very long and very slow. My legs were super heavy. I could feel the oxygen with each step, but I just kept putting one foot in front of the other until I could see the summit. Eventually, the summit was there. It was the first time that I had allowed myself to think that I was able to make it. And just 4 days and 20 hours later, I arrived at the summit of Mont Blanc. It was incredible. It was something that many people had told me that I couldn't do. Now, through this challenge and through other challenges that I've done since, I have spoken to many people about my own menstrual health issues. I remember one particular conversation with a journalist where I was telling him about my struggle with endometriosis, and I noticed that he had started to go quiet during the conversation. And I just thought it was because he was a little bit embarrassed about the topic. So we persevered, and at the end, I didn't think I would ever hear from him again. But a couple of months later, he actually called me, and he had called me to thank me because his teenage daughter was experiencing exactly the same symptoms as me, and had also been told that it was normal and it's what every girl goes through. So he had had her referred to a gynecologist, and she was then diagnosed with endometriosis. Obviously, he was in tears telling me this because he thought, he blamed himself for not getting help for her sooner. Now, when I first stepped foot into the English Channel, I'm not sure I really understood why I was doing it, but I just knew it was something I wanted and I needed to do. And I think through sharing my own journey that's so intimate to me that I have started to discover my purpose. I want to empower young women and women all over the world to talk openly, to educate and to advocate for themselves and for others. I also want to inspire anybody that will listen to know that we really can achieve anything that we want to if we put our minds to it. So when you walk out of here today, I'd really like to encourage each and every one of you to think about something that you've maybe put off, that you haven't had the courage to do. Set yourself a goal, make a plan, and go out there and achieve it. Because I honestly believe that glass ceilings really are made to be broken. Thank you.